Well, anytime we get to hear from a pastor that supports Celebrate Recovery and just the impact that Celebrate Recovery can have on a local church, it just makes my heart just full of joy, and so excited that I get to share a recent interview that I did on a Facebook Live with a pastor, Pastor Brian Trent out of Hampton, South Carolina. He's from the Lighthouse Church, and he and his wife shepherd a great church body there, and they have a Celebrate Recovery that's 3 years old. And I just wanted to share this interview. It really blessed my heart, and I think it will bless you. Welcome to Celebrate Recovery Official, a podcast that shares life-changing stories, courage, hope, and leadership wisdom, all centered around the Celebrate Recovery principles based on Matthew chapter 5, where Jesus helps us to learn how to face our hurts, our hang-ups, and our habits, and even our broken relationships, so that we can walk in that newness of life as He promises us, so that we can walk in freedom and find purpose in our pain the way He intended, the way Jesus Christ died for you and I to walk in that freedom. That's good news. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with drugs and alcohol and perfectionism. My name is Rodney. I'm the Global Field Director with Celebrate Recovery, and it's so good to be here with you today. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm excited for you to hear this conversation with Pastor Brian Trent, just a great guy. You may know him from the Trent Tribe. You can find him on the Trent Tribe page. He's really a big fan of Celebrate Recovery. He does just a great speaker, very articulate, and I know this conversation will bless you. And so with that, we'll pick up with a conversation with Pastor Brian Trent. I've been watching you from afar. That this week was the first week that I had the opportunity to be able to have a conversation with you, and this is the first time we're really having an in-depth conversation. So I'm excited to have this. I've been looking forward to this. But you, I know we've got some folks watching on the Trent Tribe page as well with your audience. You do a lot of videos. Some of our viewers and listeners are already familiar with this. Some people may be just meeting you for the first time, man. So tell me, I'd love to just jump in. What got you on this Trent Tribe? How did this all launch for you, man?
Oh, anything and everything pretty much starts with my wife. So she's the one who started all of this. A lady gave us that nickname years ago. She said, "There comes that Trent Tribe." My wife was like, "I kind of like that." So she went and bought the domain, and she started a Facebook page and all this stuff. So it's been there for years, but over the years, God kind of intervened and did. I mean, He was definitely with her when she started, but He definitely has changed it over the years. So here we are now.
I love it. Well, it holds your attention. I know everyone that I've seen, it's just really good stuff and good nuggets. So you're a pastor at Lighthouse Church in Hampton, South Carolina. I saw somebody from Columbia. I don't know how far that is from your neck of the woods in South Carolina, but I saw somebody on here from.
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half.
Okay.
We jokingly say everything is about an hour from here. So, yeah, and it's pretty much the case. We're in a great spot. We only have 5 red lights.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, one of them is really questionable. I really don't think we need it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so, I love it. Well, man, so one of the things that really captured my attention and my heart is I love hearing pastors so passionate about Celebrate Recovery, man. And you're one of those pastors, and I just love hearing your heart. And I'd love to kind of lean into what got you to this space of being so passionate about Celebrate Recovery. Can you kind of take me back a little bit? What got you to this point, man?
Well, I know the first thing was 25 years ago when I was 25 years old, half my life ago. There was a group of alcoholics in the town my mom lived in. She had remarried to my stepdad, who was an alcoholic, and a lot of the men in that town were alcoholics. Small town of about 200, and a lot of them wanted to go to church, but the 2 churches there were said, "Get your life straight, and then you can come to church." And I remember thinking, as a young guy, gosh, I'm really young in the Lord here, but that's not the Jesus that I see in the gospel. So we started a Bible study in one of their mobile homes, and around a kerosene heater because it was winter. And this is awful. And the first one, they brought their beer with them, and they drank. Now we don't do that at Celebrate Recovery meetings, but I wasn't rehearsed in the whole thing at that point. I was young, and I was like, I don't know that this is okay, but you know what? We're going to go with it. And over the course of several months, those guys all gave their lives to Jesus, and they all quit drinking, not because I told them to, but because their relationship with the Lord led them to the place where they found healing and recovery.
Wow.
And so I think God had put that in my heart a long time ago. And we tried to start one here at our church, probably 12 years ago. And we went to several, and probably 4 or 5, and we were like, oh, yeah, this is easy. I mean, this is no-brainer. We can do this and pull this off. And then our last one we went to was at a wonderful church up here in Orangeburg, South Carolina, called Cornerstone Church. And they were actually doing it the way you're supposed to do it. Because the rest that we didn't know. I mean, we'd never been to one.
You're doing the best you could.
Yeah, right. And we go to to that one, and we were like, oh, gosh, we are not ready. So we just shelved it, but we still did things to help people in recovery. So just because we were not doing Celebrate Recovery didn't mean that we were not, because God just kept bringing people to our church and in our church family. And thankfully, 3 years ago, we had a couple come in, and we were blessed to have them here to help start it. And they've moved on now, but we have a new leader in our CR program, and Jess does phenomenal job as our ministry leader, and she's very new at it, just a few months, but gosh, she just does a great job. So I'm thankful.
That's cool.
I mean, that's kind of how we got to where we are right now. So
yeah, I love that. Well, man, and I'm just loving this conversation, and I can see our comments. People are really enjoying just hearing from you. Man, from a pastor's standpoint, people hear from us all the time, Celebrate Recovery Global. We're always talking about Celebrate Recovery. So it's always refreshing to hear from somebody who's in the trenches, in a church. You're dealing with broken people. That's what the church is for, right? We have to remind ourselves of that.
Yes.
But Celebrate Recovery, what is Celebrate Recovery to you? Why have Celebrate Recovery in your church, bro?
Okay. Well, at first it was for everybody else that needed it. Because, there's a lot of people that really could use Celebrate Recovery. And at the time when we started it, we were, and bear with me because I'm being sarcastic, just in case you don't know.
I can pick up on that.
Because at the time when we started, 3 years ago, you're still dealing with the COVID stuff and all this junk. And there was no a.a.-NA meetings, things like that. And so we felt like that we started at a great time, and so, and of course, in my heart, I'm like, well, we've dealt with addicts. We've dealt with people with substance abuse issues. We've dealt with people with anxiety issues, PTSD, codependency. I mean, we've dealt with all sorts of issues over the years, but now we get officially, like, we can really hone in on it, and, but it was for everybody else. And I think the change for me came when we started step studies. That's really because up to that point, it was like, well, yeah, this is cool. We're getting together. We're worshiping, and having a lesson or sharing a video testimonial of somebody, and then breaking up into groups or whatever. But when we started step study, I said, well, I got to do this, because if I don't, then I'll be a hypocrite. And I grew up with a father who was very much a hypocrite. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just stating the truth, because he was somebody different to, what you saw was a completely different person than he was. So once I came to know Christ, one of the big things over the years is I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I think the best way to do that is to be transparent, and say, I got issues. I got problems. And I think that you have to be transparent about that, you know? And I think that's the part about it in me. And when you come into a recovery program like Celebrate Recovery, and then you start going through the step study, and all of a sudden the rubber meets the road. And about 2 weeks into it, I was like, gosh, oh man, I'm messed up. Like I am really, I have got problems. And I'm like really bothered by it because I'm like, how am I even qualified to be a pastor? Like if people find out that I'm struggling with some of these things, and it's not that I had like something that if it got out, it was going to be the end of everything.
Yeah.
It was that family trauma and growing up in poverty and various things like that. And I had just taken those little hurts and tucked them away in my life and had figured out how to maneuver around them the best that I could. But the truth is, I wasn't truly living. I wasn't truly free. And I had been a pastor for years, and I wasn't free. And so when we started doing step study, then I'm having to address these things. And I'll be honest with you, I was pretty angry every week. I was like, I'm not real happy. And I tell people, I said, listen, if you want to continue dealing with the junk you're dealing with and don't challenge yourself, then by all means, if you don't want to get angry or any of those things or deal with your emotional junk or any of those things, you better not go through step study. It is not for the weak at heart. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to fake it. It was hard, but was it worth it? Oh my gosh. There's no way I'd be sitting right here with you right now if I didn't go through step studies and go through that, because it transformed me as mercy, as a human being, you know, as a child of God, as a pastor, as a husband, as a leader. It just transformed my life. And then the beautiful part is that the guys that are in the group with me in my step study were several of the leaders in our church. And we look at each other now and we get fired up, man, about it, because it not only, when God uses something like that to transform you, it transforms everything else in your life. Because, you know, seek ye first the kingdom of God. When God transforms this, it transforms everything. So my leadership capacity went through the roof. I'm not saying I'm the greatest leader. I'm just saying that it went up a lot. Because now I'm not dragging around and trying to maneuver around things that I've tucked away. I have found healing. And I don't have to carry those things around anymore. And I just felt free. It's just incredible. And I know why a lot of pastors probably shy away from it, because they don't want their people to know, because they don't want to appear weak. Yeah. And they don't want to appear, but the truth is, and if you're a pastor on here tonight, you know as well as I do, you are weak, and that you have issues. Then it's okay. And it's hard, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And there are so many pastors that I know that are crying out for help, but they can't open up with people in their congregation. And it might be because they don't have somebody. It's because they're afraid to, because they may get railroaded, and they may be in a position where, that is their family's livelihood. That is one of the things that's their income. And if people find out, then their family is up against it here. Yeah. For us, we were fortunate that we don't take a salary from the church. So we're not really concerned. Yeah. Yeah. Fire us. We don't really care. We're good. We're not here for that. Well, I love that. That kind of gives you that. I'm sorry. That is, it's transformed me. One of my good friends, Jim, who went through it, is one of our worship leaders here at church. Tell me, I cannot tell you. He's leading a step study in another town. And the gentlemen that are doing the step study with him are former cocaine addicts and alcoholics. And they're all men that are now in our church that are leading the men in this church, and it's just so good. Well, so good.
I love that. And I love that you're leading by example. And I when you were talking about seek first the kingdom, and it just reminds me that whatever we seek first organizes every other aspect of our life. And man, when we can come to the Father and with safe community, and and seek him and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm struggling with, it begins to organize our life in a different way because he's the one that's directing it. And I noticed somebody posted about CPR, Celebrate Pastors Recovery. That's great. And what I love about this is you went into a regular group. You weren't in a group with other pastors, and that's pretty courageous. And man, what a message. And it's not always safe for pastors to do that. They may need a group with pastors. Nothing wrong with that. But just the fact that you got in a group with other guys, that you were actually pastoring, man, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a pretty.
You would think though you would think that it would weaken our relationship. That now they're like, oh, no, I don't know if we should go to that church anymore. Yeah. But it was the opposite. It actually strengthened our relationship. And we still have, that's been a few years, and we still have our text group we text each other from that group. We still have that. And of course, now I have several text groups I'm in because every time that there's a step study, either whether I lead it or not, they add me to that text group. And so, and it's awesome, to have that place where you can be transparent with each other and just let it rip.
Well, so there's a question that comes to mind, Brian, that, I hear this in kind of in private, but I've seen pastors kind of put up a wall. Yeah, there's an aspect of, I don't want them to see my stuff. But how many times, and I'm just kind of curious from a pastor standpoint on this, how often do you think it's, if my church is struggling, that's a reflection on me and my leadership? And man, the enemy's so ruthless, isn't it? He kind of feeds us these lies. And so we don't need a recovery program because we're taking care of it on our Sunday morning. I wonder if you could speak to kind of the differences in what you guys have a healthy church there, the great things you're doing there in your regular church services, and then you have this wing of the hospital. The church is a hospital that is Celebrate Recovery. From a pastor standpoint, I wonder if you could speak into that. Why would I need Celebrate Recovery if I have a healthy congregation on a Sunday morning?
Well, because, here's how it's transformed our church. Even though the majority of our church does not attend Celebrate Recovery, it has transformed our church into a church of recovery. And so what that means is that we're not a church that offers a recovery program. We are a church that has a recovery program where you can come and be a part of our family if you choose to. And we want to support you with every single thing we have here. So I think that's the biggest key, and I think that's one of the greatest transformations, because even if you take things in example, so when we started Celebrate Recovery, my daughter, Gracie, is the second oldest, which at the time would have been 19 years old. And she said, well, we really need a food ministry at our church. And I said, well, we do, because we're going to feed these people over Sunday night. I don't know what we're going to do. But she said, well, I'll start it. And so she started one, and they call it burnt offerings. And so usually they don't burn the offering. But,
that's good.
Yeah, and they have this large team, and they rotate once every 6 or 8 weeks or so. And so they don't get inundated. But, there's that team. And because we started CR, that team now does other things as well, so, and then there's just all sorts of things where you notice that it's just a big deal, that it's transformed us into a tighter knit family. And I think that a lot of people that don't come to CR probably don't even realize how much CR has transformed us, because so many of our leaders have come through step studies. It's transformed the way we treat people, the way we look at things, the way we look at the Word of God, the way we preach, the way we sing, the way we do everything. And so when people come through the doors, and we get a lot of visitors. I mean, we had 2 ladies show up from Alabama to bring me a little Jesus this past Sunday. We're a good ways from Alabama. A few weeks ago, we had a lady come from Oklahoma. She drove from Oklahoma to come to church with us, and she brought me a little Jesus, which that's a whole nother thing, and any of our followers will know what I'm talking about. But the thing is when they come in, because they know me from online, they may think, well, I'm here to meet him. But what they find out is they get inundated with all these people that are like, we are so glad you're here. And and it's not a fake thing. We've never went to any of our team and said, well, here's how you need to do it. They just do it.
They just do it.
And it's a simple motivation out of being a part of that family. And I think that's just it. The entire family's blessed and don't realize how much. And that's one of the things I think that, just real quick, if you're a CR leader watching this, if you are a ministry leader or part of the leadership team, don't look at your numbers, because numbers don't matter, because a lot of times we get upset because we gauge success based on the number of people we have coming to our CR program. And you think, well, I've only got a half a dozen come into my CR program, so I don't know if it's worth doing this. If one person is transformed, it's worth doing it. Because so what if we've got 100 and nobody's changed? Nothing's changing. Nothing's going on. So we remind our leader a lot with Jess, listen, we don't care about the numbers. And we have fine numbers, but we don't care about that.
Yeah.
If lives aren't being changed, then it doesn't matter.
Well, and I love that you're saying that, because we've been in this last season of our training conferences, we've been really trying to vocalize that and articulate that remove from your vocabulary that we have a small Celebrate Recovery. There's no such thing as a small Celebrate Recovery. And here's the thing. There is a Trent and a Rodney at that Celebrate Recovery, right? If it's one person, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's brother, dad, neighbor, whatever, and they need Jesus. And so, but what I love, Pastor, is what you're articulating is, and this is so good for pastors. I hope that everybody listening shares this with your pastor, because your pastor needs to see this, especially if you don't have Celebrate Recovery. But it may encourage them. But that you're helping us understand that just having a Celebrate Recovery has a ripple effect, that you may not see the fruit right in front of you, but there is fruit being rippled through your entire community, starting in your church, right? Because you have a sign in front that says, we're Celebrate Recovery. You're saying we're a safe place. Come on in. And it grows the church. It grows the kingdom. It doesn't matter what the numbers are in the specific meeting. It's a kingdom thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. And it's the gospel. Jesus met people where they were. And sometimes Jesus even pursued them. Just incredible to think about. So there's
little Jesus.
So, we get some hate messages from times about that. There's a few people that say, well, you shouldn't worship idols. And I'm like, I don't think anybody's bowing down and worshiping idols. The beautiful thing is, when we started doing this, we didn't ask to go viral. It happened. Yeah. And I'm glad it did. Yeah. Because we get messages from people all over the world about how they're utilizing little Jesus in their churches or their businesses. One lady messaged us today that she has cancer, but she bought a box of them and she's giving them out at the cancer treatment center. And that it has been such an encouragement to people, because it reminds people, this is just a little rubber Jesus, but man, the true Jesus. And when you can reach in your pocket and grab it, and reminds you that you have a wonderful Savior. Yeah. And it's just such a door opener for people, and it's just a wonderful thing. And so, but nonetheless, I didn't know they were going to do that.
Yeah, that's funny. So let me ask you this, Pastor. So I kind of have two angles here I want you to speak into. I want to start with, let's start with a pastor. A pastor's on the fence about bringing Celebrate Recovery, or maybe they're doubting, is this even worth it, right? Having it in our church, is it worth the hassle, kind of thing? Can you speak to our pastors for a minute? And then in a minute, I'm going to have you talk to participants. But what would you say to a pastor to encourage them? Maybe they're discouraged, kind of feeling the weight of that. What would you say if they're on the fence to start, or they're just feeling a little bit discouraged and they have it in their church? What would you, if they're listening right now, what would you say to them?
Well, I wished we had done it years ago when we felt like that we were not qualified to do it. Because that's really what happened. Is we went up there to Orangeburg, and they had such a great program, and still do. And they had 100 and some attendees there, and they had as many people volunteer. And that's when I was like, oh gosh, I mean, at that time, we didn't even have that many people in our church, period, like half that. So I was like, we just can't do this. But I think where we made the mistake, and where I think others probably do, is they think, well, I have to start where they're at right now. But that's just not the case, because as I've discovered, the majority of Celebrate Recovery programs are very small. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because there's this beautiful part about being in a small group, or small,
right,
that you're close and you help keep each other accountable. And I think that's the big thing, that we let it intimidate us. And so if you're a pastor, I would say, maybe don't worry about feeding them. Don't worry about childcare necessarily. Maybe somebody will step up. What we have discovered is that the provision will always follow the step of faith. The provision is never going to show up before the step of faith does. And so when we took that step of faith, finally, the provision came abundantly above what we could ever think or ask. So, and I think that's just it. And we see it throughout Scripture. You take somebody like Moses or somebody like that, some of the provision he carried with him and didn't even realize that it was provision. When he left and went over to Egypt, and then he discovers that some of the things that he actually held in his hand was actually some of the greatest provision that he could have ever had, but he didn't know until he actually took that step of faith. So if you're a pastor, don't be scared to take that step of faith. That's what it's all about. And you may be surprised at how it transformed. And our church has doubled in size since we started, probably more since we started CR. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the way it transformed us as leaders, and how we view things and how we look at things. So
I love that.
From a pastor perspective, I hope that.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I haven't jumped in here until now, but we did have a comment that I think is really important for us to get up here.
Yeah.
Amy says, I'm so happy to now be part of CR at Lighthouse Church. I am a newbie, and under Jessica's leadership, my life is already changing, and I feel so blessed to have Brian Trent as my pastor. God is good. Brian, I want to say real quick, and I know I'm jumping in here on you, Rodney, but I absolutely love that you did a step study as a pastor with your church and such. My story is very similar. I did my first step study as the head of my church board and with my senior pastor. And my senior pastor goes, okay. He's like, I've had this addiction for 16 years that no one's known about and such. And it's like, and now he's able to talk about it. And so I just absolutely love this ministry, and it's a big part of my life and such. So thanks for sharing yourself with your step studies. So.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Amy, for that comment too. Amy's a sweetheart, and she deals with a lot of stuff herself, a lot of weight that she carries with the health of her husband and things like that. And I know she wouldn't mind me talking about that. I'm not going to go deep into that, but she's an absolute sweetheart. And I'm thankful for her.
That's
as
awesome.
Well as others. So,
Well, I know we're getting close on time here, but I want to make sure I get this in. You're a pastor and a good pastor. You shepherd your flock well, and you have an opportunity to do a little bit of pastoring right here, right now with our listeners. Somebody's listening right now, and they're struggling and, feeling a little bit hopeless and wondering, is there hope for me? Can change happen in my life? Through that lens of Celebrate Recovery, Jesus Christ, that foundation, what would be some words that you would share with them in this space, man?
Well, I can tell you that there is recovery if you truly want it. I think Jesus actually said a few times, and I remember the one miracle that he did, he said, do you want to be made whole? And I think that's key, because if you do, well, here it is, it's right here. And I would encourage you to go, even if it's not a Celebrate Recovery program, I would encourage you to go, although I think that Celebrate Recovery is more established. But I also think that it's important for you to connect with the family of that was there, not just at Celebrate Recovery, but that church family, and to be a part of that. And I encourage people just recently that if you're looking for a church, to go that direction, And some people came back at me with some stuff, like, well, you should pray and let the Holy Spirit lead you. And I'm like, well, that's great for me. I totally get that. But, if I don't know Jesus and if I'm 20 years away from the church and I've never prayed, how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. And there's a lot of people like that. And so if you're that person tonight, I want you to understand that one of the good ways that you can go about finding that good church family is to go find yourself a CR. And you may say, well, I don't need it, which is what I said. And it ends up, it's the most life-transforming thing that I've ever done in my life. And I can say that with a shadow of a doubt, that my wife has been incredible. She's such an encouragement. She is, she speaks life into me all the time. But next to that, I will tell you that the camaraderie, the brotherhood of being a part of the guys in our group is incredible.
Yeah.
And so don't let your fear stop you, because what God is getting ready to lead you into is not just healing, but to be a part of something that's going to blow your mind. And I think that's key. So don't let your hangups and your issues and your, the block here stop you. And don't tell yourself that you're not worthy, because the truth is you're not, and I'm not either. But God loves us enough that he would actually pull us through at that. And that's the beautiful part, because I'm not worthy. And that means that's good news, because that means you're not worthy either. So that makes us just alike. But God is so loving that he would hold our hand and carry us through that. And it's a beautiful thing.
Wow. Isn't God good? I mean, that's just what a wonderful conversation. And I know it blessed my heart. I hope it blessed your heart too. I love hearing from a pastor, because it reminds us that pastors are in recovery too. And when pastors catch that vision of what this can do for a church, it literally changes families, it changes a church, it changes communities, and it changes a world. And you get to be a part of that. And I pray that if you're still on the fence, that maybe today is the day that you decide to jump in, all in with Celebrate Recovery. If you'd like more information, go to celebraterecovery.com. But thanks for being with me today. I pray you'll join me next time. Until then, God bless.